It's me again. Come here. We're gonna try one more time, right? Am I making you uncomfortable? Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're being a good boy. Okay, let's try again.
Okay.
But I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you so I didn't forget. Is I feel like we've been hearing the term microaggression a lot. Um,
Yeah.
what is that? What can you explain kind of what that is, what that means? Because I don't think it's something that I keep hearing, but not.
Right.
Uh, I'm not getting like a explanation.
Right. Um, I mean, I guess a microaggression is it's sort of like a covert form of racism where people might I think like it could be like a maybe not a racist joke, but like people that make comments that like I don't know the exact definition, but to me it's
Right.
like when they make comments that like almost seem like they could be like a backhanded compliment or, has like a layer of hostility to it that um sometimes you don't even necessarily like realize in the moment is racist. Like even saying like, "Oh, like you talk like you're white." Like you like I think people think that's supposed to be a compliment, but like it's
Right.
not.
No.
Um or even like a white person touching a black person's hair, like that is also a microaggression.
Right. Well, I would never think to do that. So that's weird to
But
me.
it happens so much. Like whenever I have braids in, I remember like the first time I wore my hair in braids for New York Fashion Week. Oh my God, the amount of people that I would come in contact with who like people I know, not necessarily my best friends, but like people I know in the industry who would like take my hair and start playing with it. And, you know, I do think that sometimes it feels like white people just actually just really love like playing with their own hair, playing with their friends' hair. So like I try not to necessarily take offense to it, but
Sure.
when it's happening to you literally nonstop from like morning till evening, day after day after day, just think someone constantly touching your hair, constantly touching you, you're like, you feel like you're an animal in, at a petting zoo.
Yeah, I mean, I have that at work. My face is touched constantly, and so is my head. And I even then, I hate it. I hate people like picking at me.
Right.
So I can't imagine being in a situation where obviously no one should be doing that. Like
No,
that's not part of your job. Um,
no,
same.
no.
Never even think. I would never even think.
Like Solange made a song about it. Don't touch my hair. It's
Oh,
there's
interesting.
like I
Wow.
there's a lot of white people that still don't understand that you are not supposed to touch a black woman's hair.
Wow. Well, there you go. Did you hear that, guys? Pay attention. Listen up.
I like it even I had like a little bit of a flashback like last week or something where I was like in the shower washing my hair and I thought about when I was in elementary school and I was on the school bus and like a kid touched my hair and was like, your hair feels like a Brillo pad. And I think a lot of black kids have gotten that because we have rougher textured hair at times, but you don't forget these things. That's the thing. Is like these microaggressions, they seem sort of innocent in the moment, but they're things you literally never forget.
Wow. Yeah.
And like, it like just sort of chips away at you.
Yeah. I can imagine how dehumanizing that can even be. Like it's just pointing out how different. Like it's just pointing
Right.
out the differences between us, and it's that
Really.
becomes the focal point rather than like, we're both human beings. Have we both have a lot in common because we're both human beings, but it's like because of the color of our skin and our hair, it becomes like we're just so different in so
Yeah.
many ways. Is that I feel like that's just how people look at it.
Yeah.
They can't see the human part.
And I think that like, a big lesson for me growing up, like, as much as your parents sort of have conversations with you as a child about race, like, I remember my parents being like, in life, you're going to come across people that don't like you because of the color of your skin. Like, these are conversations every Black family has. Like, could you imagine having a conversation like that with your parents? Like, no. But, and just like sort of preparing me for what I might face out in the real world. But I think another really interesting lesson that I definitely had to learn on my own was that, despite the fact that like I grew up in a predominantly white and like affluent community, went to good schools, my parents paid a lot of money for my college education, none of those things saved me from racism. I think that a lot of white people or non-Black people can sort of think that like, oh, well, economic privilege, you know, you'll look at Oprah and like, oh, she's rich, like she never faces racism. But then there was that incident like a couple years ago where she was in an Hermes store and the sales associates like didn't realize who she was and basically insinuated that she couldn't afford to buy a bag there. Like Oprah could buy the whole store.
Right, right.
And
Wow.
I think a lot of instances like that where you think that, economic privilege saves you, but it doesn't, because the first thing anyone sees when they look at me is the color of my skin.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's insane. I did not know that about Oprah.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
like, bitch, she could buy your whole life. um,
Exactly.
That's crazy. That's thank you for kind of explaining that. I feel like because I keep hearing that term and I'm like, okay, I have my own understanding of what it is, but I think you
Right.
hear microaggression and I think just like even just knowing and learning that this is something that we do kind of subconsciously. Like it's not, we think that we're saying the right thing or we're being respectful, and
Right.
it's nope, you're actually pointing out the fact that someone's Black and you're not. Like
Right.
it's almost just yeah. So I'm glad that you brought awareness to that. That's
Or
really
like, I'm almost as tan as you. Like that would all like people would always say that to me. I'm like,
wow.
it's not the same. It's just not. And that's, I think it's really actually important for people to educate themselves on what microaggressions really look like,
I
because there's a high chance like that you've probably done that subconsciously to someone. And even though you have good intentions, you don't mean to hurt someone's feelings. That doesn't actually change the impact that your words have.
that's 100% on point. I think that's so important. So I'm glad we're talking about that. I'm glad
Yeah.
you brought that up because
Understand, intentions versus impact is so important here. Because I think I like read comments online and stuff like that, and people being like, oh, well, why should I have to apologize for something, my ancestors did, or that was so long ago. And, I sort of liken it to when you step on someone's foot. You didn't mean to step on their foot, did you? No, but you still always apologize. We always apologize when we step on someone's foot because that's the impact.
yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. And it's also like no one's, but also no one's really, or do you think people are asking? And my perception of this situation is like people aren't. I don't feel like Black people are asking white people to like apologize for their ancestors. It's more so like take ownership of your own white privilege, and you know, no one's asking you to like beg forgiveness for your racist ancestors. We can't change what happened. It's like making sure you don't breed that same kind of ignorance.
Exactly. It's understanding that actually that your ancestors were part of this system that still exists, that you still benefit from.
Right.
So you have to be able to recognize that there's a system in place and it's called white supremacy, and how you've benefited from it and how you've also worked to uphold it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, what can we do to, I mean, starting from a personal level and working its way up into like our government, how
Yeah.
can we knock down white supremacy for sure? And I mean, you're going to have the people who are wearing, the MAGA hats saying, yes, we want white supremacy. That's the point. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, you're all old and white and you're going to leave the earth eventually and will be replaced by young, less ignorant, hopefully, human beings who I feel like, yeah, what you said before the connection stopped. It's like this has been something that's been going on forever, and it's 2020, and no amazing huge changes are going to happen by the end of the year or even by the end of the next year or maybe even
Right.
but it's the fact that it's now happening, this like consciousness that we're all kind of white people are like collectively,
Yeah.
it's like a third eye that's opening now that it's like a conscious whoa, like, oh, I see what white privilege is. I see how corrupt the system is. I see these microaggressions. It's just kind of like opening up your eyes, and then over time, the hope is that it would lead into actual change.
Right. And that you'll be more aware of where you can step in when someone's making a racist joke, or is, you know, or you see a microaggression happening. It's like there's so many little points where people just choose to be passive and let those things slide, and it builds over time, and that's, how we get here.
Right. I mean, I was at my fans know that I love um, fast food, so I was at a fast food place yesterday, um, and there was a black woman behind me. She was picking up an order for Postmates or something like that, delivery service. A white woman, we'll call her Karen, comes in and she's like, "Can you move your car?" Her first of all, this woman's car was not blocking this other woman's car. And I was like listening to the conversation happen. It was a loud conversation, and I was like, if this woman says like a racial slur or anything alluding to this other woman's race, and luckily she did not, but like I was like, I'm prepared to say something, and that's not something that I would have ever, I probably would have just kept my mouth shut a month ago because I'm like, oh, it's not my place, but it is all of our places now. And
Yes, it
so, yeah, that's how I'm thinking of things now. Yeah, like if there's a fight breaking out between two women at this fast food joint, and like I was paying attention, I was listening to what this woman was saying because I was like, you better not start attacking this woman because of her race.
right,
I was about to step in and be like, call her out on it, is basically what I was going to do. And luckily it didn't get to that.
right,
But I mean, you can tell when something's like racially charged, like when there's just a certain aggression that she would not have had if it were another white woman. Absolutely
exactly.
not. And so I think it's like, even just for those listening and for those who are trying to learn, it's like just being aware of those sort of situations and knowing that, yeah, it actually, you don't say it's not my business. It actually is, because we are all collectively in this society. We want change. If you're watching this live, obviously you want to educate yourself. You want change. So like, step up to the plate when you need to, when it's happening around you and you can say something about it. Call people out on their shit.
Absolutely. And, something I shared on my stories like a couple weeks ago, I'm like, you know, whenever I have come across situations where there's been a microaggression, or even when I was in college for the first time in my life, someone referred to me as the N word, like I have always checked them in the moment.
Good.
And, you know, I know not every Black person is like that, but to me, it's like that is part of being Black, is having to defend yourself, you know? So you grow up hopefully with that backbone of knowing like when things aren't right, you are the one that has to, you know, put that person on notice. You're the one who has to make it known. And so, you know, sometimes it's hard for me to imagine how like white people can be scared to like call it out, because I'm like, do you understand like what we actually have to deal with on a daily basis? Like this doesn't even directly affect you, but you can stand up. It's I think showing a sign of support, you know, whether you're, you know, actually stepping into a situation in the moment, or even just speaking about your support for the Black Lives Matter movement, like it's the least you can do.
Right. No, 100%. And I felt the need to like after that the white woman left in a fit
To,
of rage. I walked up to the woman and I was like she was absolutely not in the right. I just wanted to let you know that like, you know,
right.
it wasn't me being like I witnessed what happened and you
Right.
know, but it was just like I felt like I needed to be like
You're like, yes.
I see what just happened and it wasn't fair.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I mean, I think it's 100%. It would be such a beautiful community if we could create a society in which Black people didn't always have to defend themselves, obviously. And you could not depend, but like you could just have support from people always. Like someone's going to stand up for you in a crowded
Right.
room if someone uses a racial slur or says something disrespectful, that you're not just going to be the only one defending yourself. Like I'm hoping that this movement, which I think it really is making an impact in that sense, that like in our social settings, the young people in these social settings can carry this knowledge with them and this new sense of like wokeness with them and incorporate it into their lives. Like that's, I mean, yeah, I just think it's a matter of taking what we're learning here and actually, it's really easy to go on Instagram and be like, I'm an ally, but like do it, actually do it.
Yeah. I think that if you really want to be an ally, you have to make this part of your life for the rest of your life. Like
Yep,
like this is your new normal.
yep, as it should be.
Right.
That's what's going to make a change. Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating to me that like 2 weeks ago, everything you saw on Instagram was about Black Lives Matter, and now it's kind of like 30% of what I see on Instagram is now Black Lives Matter, and it's like, okay, people are getting on with their lives because it's not directly affecting them anymore, and it's like, Breonna Taylor's murderers have still not been arrested or charged. They were fired, I believe.
One of them.
One of them. Okay. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Like, let's please, like, to those watching, like, don't just shut up about it. Like, it may, news, whatever, may be able to convince you that, like, change is happening rapidly. It's not. It's like, this is a fight that needs to continue. Keep fighting for Breonna Taylor and for the Black transgender women who are killed every day in our country and get, their names aren't heard. No one stops
Right.
to fight for them. And so it's like, yeah, this is just, and I've said this before, and you said it as well. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And it's like, don't let this die out, because we need to keep doing this.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's going to fade away. And then someone else is going to be murdered by police in 5 years and it's going to cause an uproar again. It's like,
Right.
let's keep
Stay on that.
charging through. Yeah, 100%. It's like we can't like ease off because like 2 or 3 things have happened over the course of like the 3 weeks that the protests have been going on. It's like that's nowhere near enough.
Even since the George Floyd situation, we've seen other Black people be murdered. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, yeah, we're getting somewhere, but Lord knows we still have a very, very long way to go. And so, yeah, it's just like we got to keep that same energy every day, because those that you see going back to their normal lives completely, like, that's privilege.
Yep. 100%.
Like, you know, this stuff like literally is consuming my thoughts like day after day after day. And so, you know, to be able to just be like, oh, well, now life goes on, or now I don't have to talk about it anymore. Like, that's just not an option.
Right. Well, I think it's like, you know, if you're listening to this, if someone's listening to this, and you are one of those people who, oh, I haven't thought about that today. I haven't really like said George Floyd's name or thought about that in like a while. It's like, it's because you have the privilege to not think about it because
Yeah.
because whether it's the color of your skin or whatever, you have the privilege to not be disturbed by what's going on every day. And so acknowledge that that is a privilege and just try to just try, I mean just try to acknowledging that is the first step and then acting on it.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what I would say. But
absolutely.
I mean, thank you so much. This was such a good conversation. I think a conversation that needed to be had. A lot of people, including me, needed clarification on microaggression. And unfortunately, the connection was really bad the first 3 times. So, you know, I
Thank
hope.
you with me.
Yeah, of course. I know. I'm happy to. I'm glad this seemed to work. This
Yeah.
area that you're in.
Yeah.
But thank you again. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. It's very kind of and appreciate everyone who cares to watch. But
Thank
yeah,
you for
of
this.
course. Thank you. Thank you again. Have a good Monday.
Yeah.
Have a good week. Stay well. Um, and thank you again.
Of course. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you.